What if, what if the thing holding you back financially doesn't look like fear at all? What if it looks like being responsible, keeping the peace, or just not wanting to rock the boat? Welcome back. Today's day 13 of your Money Mindset Reset. Yesterday, we talked about setting goals that actually belong to you. Today, we're talking about the thing that quietly stops you from following through on them. Even when the goal is clear, even when you know exactly what you want to do. I told you at the end of yesterday that this one gets personal for me, so let's go there. When most people think of financial fear, they picture panic, stress, lying awake, running numbers at 2 a.m. And yes, that's part of it, but that's not usually how fear does its most damage. Most of the time, financial fear is quieter than that. It looks like hesitation, avoidance, overthinking a decision until the moment passes. It looks like staying in a situation you know isn't right because leaving it feels more dangerous than staying. Fear doesn't always sound like panic. Sometimes it sounds like a perfectly reasonable excuse to stay exactly where you are. For me, two fears have done the most financial damage, and I want to name them both clearly because I suspect at least one of them will sound familiar. The first is the fear of being judged. And I don't mean general people pleasing. I mean the specific fear that if I make a move or if I put myself out there, if I try something, if I take up space financially, someone is going to have an opinion about that. And that opinion is going to mean something about me. That fear has kept me from opportunities that could have been genuinely rewarding. Not because I didn't see them, because I did, but the possibility of being judged for trying and failing, or trying and being criticized, or trying and having someone decide I wasn't qualified, was enough to make me hesitate. And hesitation, when it becomes a pattern, is expensive. Not always in ways you can measure immediately, but over time, the cost of not acting adds up just as surely as any debt. Fear of judgment rarely announces itself. It usually shows up dressed as, I'm just not ready yet, or I need to learn more first, or maybe it's just not the right time. Those aren't always wrong, but it's worth asking honestly which one is true. The second fear is harder to talk about. It's the fear of being controlled, and specifically the fear of the conflict that inevitably comes when you push back against it. I lived this in a business situation with someone I had been friends with for over 35 years. We started an online boutique together, and almost immediately the financial decisions started going sideways. All kinds of sideways. She was buying inventory we didn't need, products that weren't selling because honestly, nobody wanted them. They were ugly. And she was spending money we didn't have, and it was money that I was covering. I tried to speak up multiple times, but she had always been someone who called herself honest while actually just being harsh and rude. And in this situation, that translated to shutting down every conversation I tried to have. She turned it back on me, said our lack of sales was because I was boring, not because she was overbuying products that weren't moving. And here's where the fear came in because I could see what was happening. I knew it wasn't right, but fully confronting it meant conflict. It meant possibly losing a 35-year friendship. It meant standing my ground with someone who was used to people backing down. And at the same time, my marriage was falling apart. Those two things couldn't coexist. I did not have the bandwidth to fight on two fronts. Eventually, I stepped away, and that situation cost me money, and it ended the friendship. Looking back, the signs were always there. She'd always been controlling and difficult. I just didn't expect it to show up that way with money or to cross the line into taking financial advantage of our friendship. But the real lesson wasn't about her. It was recognizing that my fear of conflict, my deep, deep discomfort with the kind of confrontation that fighting for control always brings, kept me in that situation longer than I should have stayed. Years longer than I should have stayed. But fear of conflict is one of the most expensive fears a woman can carry because the alternative to conflict isn't peace, it's slow loss of money, power, your own voice. Which one of those lands closer to home for you? Is it a fear of judgment? A fear of conflict? You don't need to explain, just name it. Because naming it is the first step in it starting to lose its grip on you. And this is why we're talking about fear the day after goal setting. Because you can have the most aligned, meaningful, genuinely yours goals in your journal, and fear will still show up to interrupt it. Not loudly, but quietly. In the form of one more reason to wait. Fear doesn't eliminate good intentions. It just delays actions until the intention fades away on its own. Fear of judgment is the belief that trying and being seen will cost you something socially. That people will form opinions. That failure will mean something about who you are. This fear keeps you from even starting. Fear of control and conflict, the discomfort with the confrontation that asserting yourself always invites, the exhaustion of knowing that standing your ground will cost you something in your relationship. This fear keeps you from finishing or from stopping something that's hurting you. And both are real. Both make sense given where they came from. And both will run your financial life if you let them operate in the background unnamed. So the goal here isn't to eliminate fear. That's not realistic. And honestly, it's not even the point. The goal is to recognize it quickly enough that it stops making the decisions for you. So we're going to work on this in 3 steps. First, name what you're avoiding. Not why, at least not yet. Just what. I have been avoiding looking at this account. I have been avoiding this conversation. I have been avoiding making this decision. Say it plainly, no fluff. Second, get honest about which fear is actually running. Is it judgment? Is it conflict? Is it fear of making the wrong call and then having to live with it? The specific fear matters because it points to the specific thing that needs attention the most. And third, take one small step anyway. Not the whole thing, just one step that moves you slightly past the edge of what fear is comfortable with. Because action, even small action, is what breaks that pattern. Fear shrinks when you move towards it. It grows when you wait. So here's your journal exercise. 3 things to write down today. First, what's one financial decision you've been avoiding? Be specific, not my finances in general. One specific thing. Second, what I'm actually afraid will happen if I deal with this is. And then write the real answer, not the surface one. Dig a little deep on this one. And third, one small step you can take this week. Just one very doable, specific. One small step I can take this week is, and that's enough to break the stillness because the step doesn't have to be big, it just has to be forward. Fear around money is not some sort of character flaw, it's a learned response, often to things that genuinely hurt in situations where caution made sense. But the situation changes and the fear doesn't always get the memo. Your job isn't to be fearless, it's to keep moving anyway. Most of the time, fear means you're standing right at the edge of something that matters. Remember, you have more control than you think. You've got this. I'll see you tomorrow for day 14. And after everything we've just sat with, tomorrow is going to feel like a breath of fresh air. We're talking about gratitude. Not the forced kind, the kind that actually rewires how you experience your financial life. I'll see you then.